Good morning, Mr. Smith and classmates. Today we're going to be presenting about the Haitian Revolution by Benjamin Gutierrez and Jaime Martinez.
Saint Domingue, which is present-day Haiti, was located in the Caribbean, which is in the Hispaniola island, next to Santo Domingo, present-day the Dominican Republic. The Haitian Revolution was one of the most successful revolutions in the Western Hemisphere. During the time of the Haitian Revolution, there were also other revolutions going on. The slave revolt in Haiti started uprising in 1791.
Domingue was the wealthiest French colony in the West Indies, and probably the richest colony in history. Due to its agriculture, their main crop included sugar, coffee, cotton, and indigo. They grew fast and were successful. France didn't allow them to sell or trade overseas. Their decision made farmers unhappy. Due to success in agriculture in the colony, slaves suffered more exploitation. Wealthy whites owned huge plantations and many slaves. Petit blancs were a middle-class group of whites, but they weren't wealthy, mostly merchants and teachers who owned a small amount of slaves. There were approximately 30,000 free-colored people freed in Saint Domingue in 1789. Free-colored people were allowed to own slaves for them to work at their plantations, and they refused to be Africans and dressed and spoke French. The different interest groups in Saint Domingue were slaves, whites, free-colored peoples, and mulattoes.
The white population was of 40,000, and the slave population was over 500,000 people. The colored population was based on mulattoes and slaves. There were different types of slaves, such as domestic slaves, field hands, and maroons. The domestic slaves worked mostly inside a house, they cooked, they were personal servants, and they were artisans. Field hand slaves had the most difficult lives. They worked all day long in plantations, and they were treated like animals. Maroons were slaves who ran away and created their own groups. Saint Domingue uses as an inspiration the Declaration of Rights in the French Revolution. After that, they decided to revolt against the French people, led by a former slave. His name was Toussaint Louverture. He first rebelled in a plantation, and he later controlled one-third of Saint Domingue.
Thomas Jefferson aided whites, supplying them whatever they needed. Also, some French remained at the coast of the United States. Refugees were located in the north, at Virginia, Baltimore, Philadelphia, New York, and Norfolk. After Jefferson's presidential period ended, John Adams was the new president of the United States of America. Adams did not abolish slavery, so the United States stopped aiding the whites in Saint Domingue. Louverture and his followers conquered Saint Domingue, also their neighbor colony, Dominican Republic. Louverture declared himself as the governor of the entire Hispaniola and abolished slavery in Santo Domingo. Rebels killed any white person they saw in the island. More than one half of the white population in the island was killed, with an estimate of 24,000 casualties of 40,000 whites. In the other side, 100 colored people of 100,000 died.
Napoleon Bonaparte, which was one of the greatest military leaders, sent his brother-in-law to capture Louverture. Louverture was taken to France, and later he died in prison.
Jean-Jacques Dessalines, one of Louverture's generals, defeated French forces. This occurred in 1804. This day, Saint Domingue became independent and was named Haiti.